All right. Um, I apologize. I'm already kind of running out of um, um, what do you call it? Well, it's early, and so I'm talking and saying a lot of ums for one. But this is the video to go over the time tracking report. I am kind of running out of my voice. I just had a cup of coffee, so hopefully that helps. But in any case, I'm going to go through this thing. First off, these tabs at the bottom. When I create the job file, I'll create these for now, and then eventually the VP or general manager will create them. But this is how they'll look. I have someone. There's a bunch of formula that I couldn't figure out that goes into making all of this work. Um, but I have someone on Fiverr. They gave me about a 2 week schedule, so in about 2 weeks that'll be work. So literally, as you put in your information and I set up this section, it'll automatically show um, basically all the financials for every single project. I'll go over one thing real quick. Probably maybe is the elephant in the room, but your question might be: you're telling me that everyone's time is tracked on the same exact cheat sheet that everyone can see. So if I filtered through someone's name and then ran through, it was filtered for, whatever development consultant or whatever salesperson, and I highlighted all these columns, you're telling me that I could see exactly what they're going to get paid? Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. I want to keep this business as an open book. Everyone has. I don't want to do that. One guy's getting paid $18 an hour, one guy's getting paid $20 an hour, but they're doing the same exact job. But the motto of the company is don't talk about your wages with anybody because you know one guy's getting paid more than the other guy. I don't want that motto. I want everyone to get this amount of work that they want, and everyone to know exactly what's happening with everything. Like for example, Damien, he might not even know yet, or no, he knows, but he's essentially getting all my sales aside from a couple specific projects, just because I'm involved in them since way before I really started this business. But he's getting essentially all my sales, and the reason for that is because he started out towards the beginning. It was been a slow go at it, and I'm trying to compensate him for work that he's essentially done for free at this point. So all the work that comes through Eddie is Damien's sale. So I guess not all my sales, but anything that comes through Eddie or John is Damien's sale. Part of that is because he knows the guys. Part of that is because I'm trying to compensate him for work that he's already done. Totally an open book about that. That's how I want to keep it. Um, like Nathan, for example, he's been out handing out business cards and networking on Facebook and different things with brokers, real estate brokers, and scored a job. So that's obviously his sell, and then people can look at that and be like, oh, Nathan sold a job. That's awesome. Good for him or whatever. The other thing I want to go over this section real quick, and obviously it will be set up in about 2 weeks, but it's not right now. But essentially, you'll be able to see and this is something Joshua actually put a bug in my ear, and it was a great idea. But his question was, hey, well, I'm working on a job, and it's a not to exceed budget. I think it was specifically this Martinez job. He's like, how do I know when we're going over budget? Like I have no sight to that whatsoever. And it was like, oh yeah, that's a problem. Everyone needs to know what the budget is, and honestly, to give an accurate budget, I don't want to be vague about it. I'd rather just give everyone all the information. So he'd go to 2119. Let's assume this is 2119, and he'd be able to see what the total budget is, what the total income has been so far, so what we've been paid so far, what our total labor paid out is. So this is what we've charged the client for it, what our total expenses is, whether we hired a surveyor, paid for permits or something, and what the remaining budget is. So there's the budget that the customer sees, and then total build is sometimes going to be different from total income if we build something that hasn't been paid yet. So you'll kind of get to see that as kind of I'm calling it a budget snapshot. And then you'll get to come down here and see a rough project cost calculator. I call it rough because the true profit and loss will be tracked with billing department through QuickBooks, official for taxes and that kind of thing. But this will be pretty, there's not a lot that goes into this stuff. It's mostly labor. So this will be pretty same close. But it will be total income. And again, this is all like there's going to be formulas. These formulas don't even account for half of the formulas that are going to be here to make this sheet work. But I've had confirmed to me that it's going to work, and it's going to be about 2 weeks. So it costs like $250 to have it done. So that's pretty sweet. But in any case, you'll see this will all auto calculate. So as you fill out this section, this whole section auto populates, and it's all based on, putting in the entries for, income, labor, and expense, and how much it is, and 110% for markup, which I'll explain in a minute. But to go over this real quick, you'll see, and then I kind of want to talk about this for a minute, but you'll see the subtotal after the total income that we've got and the expenses paid out and what's left there. And then you'll see the actual labor paid. So that is the development consultants percentage, which we talked about, and what the business actually paid out for labor. The bonus bank is 0.25% of every hour worked gets put in the bonus bank. And then I may as well go over it now. Maybe I'll just go over all this in this video. So the bonus bank, I've kind of vaguely talked to some of you guys about it, but how this will work is every single job in the QuickBooks side, like in the actual official banking side, there'll be a savings account. And as these jobs go, and the bonus bank is calculated once the job's done, that amount will be put into that savings account. And at the end of the year, or maybe eventually, what I'd like to do is every quarter, that bonus bank will be divided between the amount of billable hours that each person works. So I'll just go through and filter for someone's name and figure out the amount of billable hours that person worked, and the amount of billable hours that person worked, and the amount of billable hours that the salesperson worked, and do a calculation based on, so everyone will get, like if there was 100 total hours worked that year, obviously we're going to work way more than that, but 100 total hours worked in 1 year, and one person worked 20 hours, one person worked 20 hours, 20 hours, 20 hours, it'll get divided up. Whatever the total amount from all the jobs put in the bonus bank, it'll get divvied up based on, think of it this way: your total billable hours worked will essentially be the percentage. So if it's 20 hours, 20 hours, 20 hours, 20 hours, everyone's going to get 20% of everything in the bonus bank, 20% of everything in the bonus bank, 20% of everything in the bonus bank, if that makes sense. Same percentage goes into marketing. This is to pay to fire people to manage it. Anything that goes into marketing, that gets put in the account and then spent, obviously, throughout the year by Damien or whoever's in sales. And then I'm going to give him access somehow or another to figure out how much money is in that account, so that he can know how much he has to spend on different things. And I'm just going to kind of entrust that person to spend that money wisely and tell him, obviously I'm going to be doing weekly reviews. So, we'll talk about okay, there's $5,000 in that account. Let's throw $1,000 at this kind of advertising and see what happens. Let's spend $500 doing this and see what happens and see if we get any jobs from it. And maybe we should spend some money, putting together, and some of that money will go to paying him for his time to put together a brochure or something. And so that's the idea of that. And then sales, that's sales. I should write, and this isn't, so I can change this, but it's sales labor. So this is the actual sales labor. Again, billable hours get worked, and then the sales guy gets his percentage of that. And so in the budget, this is the rough profit and loss calculator. We'll calculate that actual labor paid out. And I'm actually missing the owner. So actual, this is another thing, is actual owner paid. And so you guys will get to see how much I'm getting paid too. But that'll be the 5%. and that'll come up, and then it'll subtotal. So like, here's what the business actually paid. Subtotal. We figure 10% goes to taxes, 10% goes to overhead. Overhead's obviously paying for things like Bluebeam and CAD and the QuickBooks subscription and the cell phone service and the yada yada yada, and hopefully the overhead goes, to things like whatever, things like that. Taxes, obviously taxes, and then whatever's left is our rough total profit, and then our profit goal is 10%. I'm not trying to get rich, or I'm not trying to, I'm trying to be as fair as I can, and make it to where people make a really good living and the business does well. And after literally everything's paid, 10% is plenty, I think. So our goal is 10%. And a lot of people shoot for 35 to 40% before this stuff. We're at, I guess, 30%, including taxes, overhead, and actual profit. And obviously, this just kind of keeps the business with cash flow. And so you'll get to see kind of where we're at, if we're meeting, exceeding, what we should do, just kind of let everyone know where we're at in the budget, who's getting paid what, and where everything's at. And then you'll be like, man, yeah, that job got us, $650 in the bonus bank. That's awesome. That'll add up at the end of the year, Man, this was a really good job. It took 6 months, and there's $5,000 in the bonus bank for this year. Like, man, I had this many billable hours. Like, I'm probably going to get paid this much just in bonuses for this job. Like it'll be kind of fun to look at too. Don't spend too much time looking at it, but it'll be fun to look at. So that's that. Okay, so now talking about the brunt of it, this is where you're going to spend most of your time. To show you how it's laid out, Nathan was the first person to put this in. He's new, just started, and got the video early, and kind of got past all the slow start that the rest of us have been in. But in any case, what I'm looking for, and I kind of explained it, all Nathan's billable hours on his first entries were way lower than this. He put in like actual hours work, and I do not want to do, in some cases that might be legit, but I want to look at it from a client standpoint. How much think about it this way, how much should we bill the client for that? So like this site walk, we were there for like 45 minutes max. But we had to drive there. We had to prepare for the meeting. We had to drive back. We had to think about it afterwards. Maybe we stuck around for a little while afterwards. There was 2 of us there. So the billable hours ended up being 4 hours, right? He met with a guy to get a thumb drive for some of the files for like, maybe for like a half an hour or an hour or something. But he had to coordinate the meeting. He had to do the meeting. He had to yada yada yada. So our billable hours, just think what's fair. As a development consultant, the sales guy is never going to be doing any of these entries. He's going to be getting paid based on the entries, but the consultants are going to be putting these entries on because they're the ones doing the work. The salesperson, all of he's doing a lot of work essentially for free on the marketing side to land a job, and then he's getting paid for every billable hours. That's how this thing's set up. Everyone knew that from the get-go, of course. But anyway, you're going to be throwing their name in there, whoever it is, whether it's yourself or Damien or whoever, and making sure that's all on the up and up. You'll be putting in the job numbers. This stuff, the job number and the project name is going to reflect exactly. Let me get out of this filter. It's going to reflect exactly whatever this says. So whatever the job number is here, this sheet, the master file, is what assigns the job numbers to begin with, and then you'll make your entries based on this job number. Okay. The project name is going to be copy and paste whatever the master job file says in here. You're going to obviously put your name, put the salesperson name. The update, remember, this is getting sent out to the clients weekly. So the update needs to not be, I did very vague ones in some of these entries. I did it quick. I'm trying to work fast. But think about it, and most of these I'm going to rewrite before I send to anybody. But these entries, think about that your clients that you're talking to on the phone are going to see these updates. So write it as if they're going to see it. You're going to go to the category section. You guys will never put in income. That will be the payroll person. Every time that they send out a bill, they're going to mark it as income. They're going to put the date in it. They're going to, they'll be directed on how to do that. And then they'll put the invoice number. And when it gets paid, they'll come back and put the date in. And then once it gets paid, when they do payroll, based on the invoice date, which you guys will kind of start seeing how that comes around, but I'll obviously just deal with billing on that. They'll go through and pay you guys based on whatever that bill was, and then mark an X whenever you get paid, so you can track what's outstanding to be paid to you and what has been paid. Or you'll mark it as expense. So if we hire a surveyor or a civil engineer or a some kind of draftsman or pay permitting fees or whatever, you'll mark it as an expense. You'll still fill out the job name. You'll still fill out your name. You'll put in here, let's see, where do I have an expense item? Like this one, payment expense paid cartographic fee. You just put something simple like that, like hire a surveyor to do X, Y, and Z. Maybe put in the surveyor's name, or paid Washington County for X, Y, and Z permit, or whatever it is. And then here's kind of the complicated part. You'll put it in as an expense. You'll put in, obviously, every single time you do an entry, make sure the date's right. And then as a billable, you'll actually put in 110%. And the reason why is when marking up anything we buy or hire or anything we pay out, we mark it up 10%. So it'll be the way this calculation here works. 110% makes it 10% more. So, for example, I paid this cartography fee for this job. The cartography fee cost me $170, but we're billing 110%. And this will show like here's an example. What job is this? It's 2103. So 2103, I'm going to clear all. I'm going to go to 2103 and show blanks. I guess I don't want to show blanks. 2103. And so when I print this off, I'm going to show him that I marked it at 10%. Like we're not hiding anything. We're being straight with our clients. We're being straight with each other. Everyone knows what's going on. And it's totally reasonable to mark up 10%. They'll totally understand. If they don't, we don't want to work for them. So I'm showing them like, hey, I paid $170, but I'm charging you $187 for me having to buy it first and then get reimbursed for it. Like that's just the way business works. And so if you ever have an expense item, you'll put it in as obviously expense. You'll mark it up 110%. You'll put the actual rate in. It'll auto calculate what 10% of that is. And then, and then literally this entry is basically just for this sheet here, is what that entry for it, and just kind of keeping that. So this kind of stuff, if you notice it goes to zero, the consultants aren't getting a percentage of what we paid out because that wouldn't make any sense to, anyway, you wouldn't want your percentage of 10% of this. Anyway, it just doesn't work for obvious reasons. But this formula here and here auto calculates to zero so that it's not getting confused when we go to figure out how much the consultant's making. Okay, and so that's that. And then labor, of course, is fairly straightforward. I would think, but I'm going to select all again. And when you put in your labor, that's where you're going to spend most of the time. You're going to put in a labor. You're going to put in your entry as if someone sees it, fills out the job name and everything. Put in the date. Put in the amount of billable hours you work. And then here's the sort of tricky spot. And we'll have to kind of stay up on this a little bit. You'll see a couple of $50 an hour. It's because on this job, it's an older job. I'm working in it. I'm not even really getting paid what says I'm getting paid, but I'm just kind of tracking it just to kind of put entries in there and show you guys what's going on. But that's $50 an hour because that's what we used to charge. Now it's more. But our consulting fee these days is $60 an hour, and our drafting fee is $85 an hour. That may go up, but right now that's what it's going to be. So if you're if you have an entry because you drew drawings in any fashion, whether it's a concept drawing, a site plan, anything to do with CAD, Bluebeam, or anything like that, it's $85 an hour for every hour you did that, or every billable hour you did that. For all other work, it's six. We put in $60 an hour in the rate section. It'll auto calculate the total. You never have to do anything with this section. This section completely auto populates itself. All these X's, obviously you don't want to mess around with these X's. I'm actually probably going to lock these columns so things can't be changed. Like all these little columns, there's tons of formulas going on in here that will totally screw up the sheet. So I'll probably figure out a way to lock this stuff, but for now it's open, so just be careful with it, please, while you're putting in your entries. And I can't stress enough, this thing needs updated like daily. As you're working, keep this thing updated. It's very, very important. So please help us with that. Thank you.